America, we need to wake up, because what is happening in Minnesota is not a local story, not a cultural curiosity, not a community issue. It is a warning signal, a flare in the dark, a glimpse into what happens when a nation forgets its boundaries, its responsibilities, and its most basic duty, protecting its own citizens. Minnesota, once defined by Scandinavian heritage and a quiet, cohesive culture, has been transformed in just a few decades. A massive influx of Somali immigrants has reshaped neighborhoods, altered the social landscape, and pushed the state into debates it never expected to face. And now, President Donald Trump has spoken with a bluntness that cuts through the noise. He accused Somali Minnesotans of draining billions from a state already struggling, of exploiting systems meant for the vulnerable, and of bringing with them challenges that decades of liberal ideology ignored. "I don't want them in our country," Trump said. "I'll be honest with you." Those words landed like a thunderclap because they broke a silence maintained by politicians who fear the truth more than they fear the consequences. This is not about prejudice. This is about survival. This is about whether America still has the courage to defend its laws, its culture, and its citizens. Minnesota has become a mirror, a reflection of what happens when immigration policy is driven by ideology instead of realism, when diversity is celebrated without discipline, and when leaders care more about symbolism than security. And now the state is wrestling with the cost: economic strain, cultural division, poverty, crime, and a community pulled between tradition and assimilation. This is a crossroads moment for America, a moment where we must ask ourselves, do we protect the foundations of our republic, or do we allow them to erode under the weight of policies that ignore reality? Because the story unfolding in Minnesota is not just about one community. It is about the future of the entire nation, and the truth is finally being spoken aloud. On the surface, Minnesota's Somali community tells a story of resilience, survival, and adaptation. A people who fled war, who rebuilt their lives, who opened businesses, who prayed, who worked, who raised families in a land far colder and harsher than the one they left behind. And many of them have contributed, integrated, and embraced the opportunities America offers. But America is not just a story of individual success. America is a nation built on shared values, shared history, shared responsibility, and a commitment to the rule of law. And when a community grows so large, so quickly, and with so little oversight, it begins to reshape not just neighborhoods, but the cultural, economic, and social fabric of a state. Minnesota, once a bastion of Scandinavian heritage and Christian tradition, now finds itself transformed by demographic shifts that political leaders encouraged without asking the most fundamental questions. Can this integration succeed? Are the systems equipped? Are the laws being enforced? And most importantly, are American citizens being protected? President Trump stepped into this controversy with a clarity that cut through the noise. He said the quiet part aloud. He spoke of welfare fraud, of billions drained from a state already struggling, of a system exploited by those who saw America not as a homeland, but as an opportunity to take without giving. He spoke a truth many in political power fear to acknowledge. Not every migrant strengthens America, and not every migrant belongs here. That doesn't make him cruel. It makes him honest. It makes him a leader who prioritizes citizens over ideology, safety over symbolism, and reality over narrative. And in Minnesota, the consequences of decades of liberal immigration policy are no longer theoretical. They are visible in neighborhoods where prosperity faded, where businesses closed, where poverty rises, where crime whispers in the shadows, and where the promise of integration has been replaced by the pressure of cultural fragmentation. Communities like Cedar Riverside, nicknamed Little Mogadishu, tell a dual story. One side is pride and resilience. The other side is decline and decay. Both exist simultaneously. Both demand attention. And while advocates emphasize the hard-working families, the entrepreneurs, the barbers, the restaurateurs, the same neighborhoods also reveal the cost of unmanaged immigration. Poverty far above national averages, addiction on the streets, abandoned storefronts, and a cultural divide that grows wider each year. The Somali community is young, still finding its place, still navigating the tension between tradition and assimilation. But the state leadership, the political elite, the progressive officials who celebrated these demographic transformations have failed to ask the most patriotic question. Is this sustainable for Minnesota? Is this safe for Minnesotans? Is this fair to the citizens who fund the programs, who carry the tax burden, who expect the laws to be upheld? President Trump highlighted a painful reality. When a system rewards dependency, when it ignores fraud, when it prioritizes optics over enforcement, it breeds consequences that fall on American families, not on the elite, not on the activists, but on ordinary people trying to live, work, and raise children in peace. And leaders like Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz embody that failure. Omar with rhetoric that fractures rather than unites, who deflects criticism instead of addressing problems. Walz with inaction that signals fear or incompetence, allowing dysfunction to grow while pretending everything is fine. This is the moral divide. On one side, the American citizen, the taxpayer, the patriot. On the other, a political class more concerned with ideology than with the safety and cohesion of the nation. Trump's message cuts through the fog. America must protect itself. America must defend its borders. America must restore the rule of law. And America must put its own people first. This is not hatred. This is responsibility. This is patriotism. This is the moment when the nation must decide whether it will continue down a path of neglect and appeasement, or whether it will reclaim the principles that made America strong, secure, and respected. And patriots across the country know the answer. We stand for sovereignty. We stand for order. We stand for law. We stand for America. On one side stand American patriots, men and women rooted in the traditions that built this country. People who believe in responsibility, law, and the sanctity of a nation that protects its own. They work hard, they pay taxes, they follow the rules, they honor the heritage of a republic founded on order, discipline, and common sense. And when they look at Minnesota today, they don't see diversity. They see strain. They see systems stretched beyond capacity. They see neighborhoods transformed without preparation, without integration, and without accountability. Patriots understand something fundamental. Borders matter because people matter. Culture matters because cohesion matters. And laws matter because they protect the innocent and restrain the chaos. To them, this isn't about ideology. It's about reality. It's about preserving a way of life that generations fought for. It's about safeguarding the future so that the next generation inherits a country that is stable, secure, and still recognizably American. On the other side stand the progressive elites, the policymakers, activists, and bureaucrats who speak in slogans rather than solutions. They celebrate inclusion while ignoring consequences. They praise multiculturalism while refusing to acknowledge the fractures it creates. They romanticize immigration while turning a blind eye to fraud, poverty, crime, and the social fragmentation that follow when policy is driven by symbolism rather than facts. For these elites, the narrative matters more than the nation. Image matters more than order. Ideology matters more than the lived experience of citizens. And when communities falter under the weight of poorly managed resettlement, they offer excuses instead of solutions. When taxpayers suffer, they offer lectures instead of leadership. And when honest Americans raise concerns, they are dismissed as backward or intolerant, even though they are simply asking for fairness and enforcement of the law. This divide is deeper than politics. It is a moral divide, a divide between those who value truth and those who fear it, a divide between those who protect the country and those who treat it as an experiment. American patriots look at Minnesota and see a cautionary tale, a state where generosity cracked under pressure, where ideology overshadowed realism, and where a once cohesive culture became fragmented by decades of neglect and misguided optimism. Progressive elites look at the same landscape and see a success story because acknowledging failure would shatter their narrative. Admitting mistakes would expose the cost of policies built on good intentions but bad execution. Patriots ask, how do we fix this? How do we restore order, enforce the law, and protect citizens? Elites respond, how do we defend the ideology, silence criticism, and keep the narrative intact? And that difference, that contrast, is why the debate has become so heated. Because at its core, this is not just a discussion about immigration or demographics. It is a debate about the soul of America. Patriots believe the country must come first, always. Elites believe ideology must be preserved, even if the country pays the price. And now, with Minnesota under the spotlight, the consequences of that divide have never been clearer. At the heart of this debate lies a moral question, one older than party politics, older even than the modern state itself. What does a nation owe its people? Every republic in history has understood a simple truth. A government that cannot protect its own citizens has lost its legitimacy. A nation that ignores the consequences of its policies forfeits the trust of those who depend on it. And a society that sacrifices security for ideology risks losing the very freedoms it claims to defend. American patriots know this instinctively. They know that compassion without boundaries becomes chaos. They know that generosity without discipline becomes a burden. They know that good intentions without enforcement become tragedy. They look at Minnesota and see a lesson written in real time, a story of ambition without foresight, diversity without cohesion, and policy without responsibility. And they understand that the cost is not measured in headlines, but in strained communities, overwhelmed systems, and a weakened social fabric. Meanwhile, progressive elites cling to narratives even when reality contradicts them. They celebrate diversity while ignoring dysfunction. They champion inclusion while sidestepping integration. And they defend ideology even when it undermines the stability of the very nation they purport to improve. This is the moral crossroads America faces. Do we continue down a path where symbolism outweighs substance, where identity outweighs integration, and where ideology outweighs the safety of citizens? Or do we return to the timeless principles that made this country strong: sovereignty, responsibility, law, order, and loyalty to one another? President Trump's response is a reminder of those principles, a reminder that leadership means telling the truth even when it is uncomfortable, that patriotism means placing your people above your politics, that moral clarity means acknowledging hard realities rather than hiding behind feel-good narratives. His message cuts through the fog because it recenters America where it belongs, at the top of the priority list. And now the question returns to us, the citizens, the patriots, the voters, the people who still believe in the republic. Will we remain silent while the foundations of our country weaken? Will we allow ideology to dictate policy while consequences pile up? Will we let communities fracture because leaders refuse to admit mistakes? Or will we stand up boldly, unapologetically? So for the America we know, love, and defend, this is a moment that demands action, not apathy. Action at the ballot box. Action in local communities. Action in conversations where truth has been suppressed. Action in defending the laws that keep us safe. Action in honoring the cultural heritage that shaped this nation. Action in demanding leadership that prioritizes citizens over narratives. We cannot outsource responsibility. We cannot wait for others to fix what decades of neglect have created. We cannot allow fear of criticism to silence common sense. Patriotism is not passive. It is deliberate. It is courageous. It is rooted in love for country and respect for those who came before us. Minnesota's story is a warning, but it is also a call to reclaim the moral compass of America, a call to defend borders, defend law, defend culture, and defend the people who make this nation what it is, a call to stand with leaders who protect you rather than apologize for you. A call to choose clarity over confusion, courage over cowardice, and America over ideology. Because the future of this republic will be shaped not by those who speak softly, but by those who stand firm. And today, America needs firmness. America needs truth. America needs patriots. And it needs them now. In the aftermath of tragedy, America doesn't need hesitation. It needs clarity. It needs action. And President Trump delivered exactly that. In his response, he didn't offer half measures or speeches meant to soothe. He issued a decisive plan, a plan rooted in one unmistakable principle: put America first and protect American lives first. He announced a permanent pause on immigration from unstable nations, a pause meant to stop the flow of people from regions where chaos, corruption, and extremism still reign. Not a temporary fix, not a symbolic gesture, a full stop until America can guarantee that every person entering our borders has been vetted, verified, and deemed safe. Because a nation cannot defend itself while keeping its doors open to uncertainty. Trump made it clear, no more taxpayer dollars supporting non-citizens. No more welfare programs, no more federal benefits, no more subsidies for people who have not earned citizenship or proven loyalty to the United States. Every dollar will go toward American families, the people who work, build, and uphold this country every single day. And the administration is now turning a powerful lens on the system itself. Every green card, every asylum approval, every visa issued from countries with weak institutions or high risk, all of it is being reviewed, re-examined, and re-evaluated. Because security cannot be built on paperwork. It must be built on certainty. For those who pose a threat, whether through criminal activity, ideological hostility, or failure to integrate, the policy is unambiguous. Denaturalization and deportation. Citizenship is a privilege, not a loophole. And when it is abused, when it endangers the very nation it should honor, it must be revoked. Trump is tightening the entire system. Work permits, asylum claims, family visas, humanitarian entries. Everything is being audited, frozen where necessary, and reshaped to ensure that America remains safe, stable, and sovereign. This isn't about shutting doors out of fear, it's about securing the doors out of responsibility. Because America has reached a point where the cost of negligence is measured in lives, in heroes like Sarah Beckstrom, who wore the uniform, who stood guard, who trusted the system, and who paid the ultimate price. And the president's message is stark. America will no longer be a refuge for the world's instability. America will be a refuge for Americans. This policy shift isn't bureaucratic. It isn't technical. It is moral. It says our borders matter. Our laws matter. Our citizens matter. Our security matters. And the future of the Republic depends on ensuring that these truths are upheld with strength, discipline, and courage. For patriots, for families, for anyone who believes in the sovereignty and resilience of this nation, these changes represent a restoration, a reclaiming of control, a return to common sense, and a defense of the American way of life. Because when a nation protects itself, it preserves its freedom. When it enforces its laws, it strengthens its unity. And when it stands firm in the face of chaos, it honors the sacrifices of those who serve. This is more than policy. This is a declaration that America will not drift, will not crumble, will not forget what it stands for. America will stand, secure, vigilant, and determined. If you've stayed with us this far, you already understand something important. This story isn't just about Minnesota or immigration or politics. It's about the direction of America and the choices we make right now. When a nation forgets its foundations, cracks appear in places we never expect. When leaders choose ideology over reality, ordinary citizens pay the price. And when patriots remain silent, the future slips further from their grasp. But the good news, the hopeful news, is that America still has a fighting spirit. A spirit rooted in responsibility, courage, and an unwavering belief that this country is worth defending. Stories like the one we examine today shine a light on the challenges we face, but they also remind us of our strength. Strength in our values, strength in our heritage, strength in our willingness to stand up even when the noise is loud and the pressure is high. And that is why conversations like this matter. Because informed patriots shape a stronger nation. Because truth spoken plainly cuts through confusion. Because clarity inspires action. Because awareness creates resolve. If you want to understand what is really happening in America, beyond the headlines, beyond the narratives, beyond the noise, then you're in the right place. We dive deeper, we connect the dots, we challenge the assumptions, and we speak plainly about the issues that define our future. So if this video opened your eyes or sharpened your perspective, don't stop here. There is more to explore, more to understand, and more to uncover. Tap the next video. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay patriotic. Because a nation cannot be strengthened by silence. It grows through awareness, discussion, and action. And together, we keep the flame of America burning bright. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.